Hello, and welcome to the first episode of the European show. Today, I'm joined by Nick,
Hello, welcome.
and we're going to discuss and look forward to all the big European games of this weekend. And first, we're going to start in La Liga with Atletico Madrid versus Barcelona. The first key area to address with this game is the fact Luis Suarez has tested positive for COVID 19. This does mean he won't be able to play against his former team and show the good run of form that he had been maintaining at Atletico. So, Atletico had previously beaten Cadiz 4-0 with two goals from Joao Felix there and a goal apiece from Diego Llorente and Suarez himself. So, Joao Felix has seemed to considerably improve since last season.
Yeah, he has, and that's the thing, isn't it? That's really what has changed Atletico this season, what has put them second place or third place in the league on that good run of form. Really, it's been Joao Felix and Koke, but mostly Joao Felix. He's stepping up. He's more confident when he plays. He seems a lot more calm, a lot more collected. Because last season, you could notice, you felt that you could feel the pressure he felt. Joao Felix played as if he knew he had to carry the team. He knew he was a big signing and he knew what he had to do, but he didn't really know how to be effective and how to be a useful part of the team.
Do
So
you think
yeah,
he has like the considerable price tag of him? He's now is now worn off him, and he is able to play freely now without thinking about the price tag.
I believe that he has shaken off a bit of the pressure of this big price tag. I wouldn't go as far as to say he's worth the price tag yet, but he's now playing more carefreely, and that is important because he knows he's an important player to the team, and he's playing as a leader. He communicates to his teammates. He helps them when the team needs him. He has a bit of a, in my opinion, a Cristiano Ronaldo mentality. For example, in the game Atletico played against Salzburg when Atletico went behind. Joao got subbed on, and he immediately got to work, connecting passes, being very active, being very energetic. He knew the team relied on him to put out a good performance, and he scored and he assisted and he really was a part of the comeback in that match. And games like that are really where Joao Felix has been proving the difference between this season and last season for me.
And do you think the presence of Luis Suarez playing up front with him has helped him learn a lot, as Suarez was a world and still is a world class striker?
Yes, yes, for sure. Furthermore, I believe that more than just Suarez's experience and mentoring, I believe Suarez's play style will also have greatly helped Joao because Suarez is used to connecting with creative players, players who pass a lot, who thread balls with him, connect with him, kind of like with one twos and such, because he used to play with Messi. And I'm not saying Joao Felix is as good as Messi, of course, but the idea is similar, right? Meanwhile, before with Morata and Diego Costa, there are more players who play in quick counter-attacking sides. That they're not as used to connecting and creating with Joao. They would mostly wait for long balls over the top and such. So this new striker partnership, I believe, has worked much better for Joao, and it's really helped him cement himself as a leader and as a useful player in the team.
So basically, you're saying Joao Felix is going to become a master in shithousery and the dark arts of football.
He very well could be like from his attitude. He gives me a Cristiano Ronaldo vibe. Like honestly, I believe playing in the Portuguese national team with him will help his mentality a lot because you can see it. He wants to become a leader. He really wants to carry the team on his back because he knows he's good and he can have quality.
And so now we look at Barcelona. So
Yes.
previously they they did beat Betis 5-2,
Hmm.
but you could argue that that game was basically the Messi show, as Messi was started on the bench, and Barcelona struggled, and they went into half time at 1-1. But then Koeman brought Messi on, and he basically changed the game. So, do you think Barcelona have become too reliant on Messi now?
For sure. Ever since Neymar left, the whole team focused around Messi, and for many seasons now, he's really been one of the few one of the few players who's constantly been creating, constantly being energetic. Like they're trying to get to the goal. The midfield isn't always there. It's not always working as well as it should be. And whenever the team needs someone to drag them to lift them up, Messi has been there. And really, the team plays around him. Or well, they played around him quite a lot. Because my next point is actually this season for me actually marks the season where it appears they are trying to transition away from this dependence on Messi.
Could you say that with them transitioning away from being dependent on Messi, they're slowly becoming dependent on Ansu Fati, who is
Yes,
a
that
17-year-old kid, and he's injured at the moment.
precisely that was what I was leading into. To replace this reliance on Messi, they are now relying highly on Ansu Fati, and right now it works because Ansu Fati and Messi they both work together. They're both like a dual focal point, I guess. You spread the attack over both sides. You play with two different players and such. And Pedri actually helps a lot. But Pedri is also a player who's taking a lot of Messi's back because he
But
creates. He's really explosive. But Ansu Fati is really the future star, and whether he can live up to the expectation, whether he can carry Barca in the way that he might need to, well, that is yet to be seen.
uh,
Still
you,
very young.
you can tell me if you think I'm wrong, obviously, because we're open for like
Hmm.
debate and discussion here. But I think this season,
Yes.
if Messi does leave and go to Manchester City now that Pep Guardiola has signed that new contract, if he does go to Manchester City at the end of this season, and Victor Font, who's most likely the favourite to win the new presidency after Bartomeu,
Hmm.
and he brings in Xavi, I do think we'll slowly see Barcelona transition away from being a truly top team in La Liga, as losing Messi is basically losing the heart of the team, and they struggle without him, as shown at the weekend. And even though Fati is a very good player, I do think they're just going to slowly decline. I'm not saying they could get relegated, but they're not going to be as prominent in like the latter stages of the Champions League, for example, or be in the top two in La Liga. Because frankly, I see Atletico Madrid being a better team than them in the future, and you've got like younger teams, like player wise, with Real Sociedad and
Yeah.
Sevilla as well, who are a very good team, and I could see them easily overtaking Barcelona in the next few years.
It's possible, yeah, for sure. I wouldn't call it a certainty, but it's definitely a possibility because, yes, Ansu Fati and Pedri do have a job on their hands to possibly take over Messi, but that shouldn't be their job. Barcelona has been trying to find offensive replacements for Neymar and now possibly Messi, such as Coutinho, Griezmann. You could possibly say Braithwaite, but I wouldn't call him I wouldn't call him quite a messy replacement. But these experienced players or these more high profile players, such as Dembele as well, they haven't really shown to be carry material. They you are right. Like if Barca cannot cement a new leader or a new set of leaders for their team, it is very possible that they will quickly begin to decline if Messi leaves. So that is definitely something that they need to watch out for.
And now we can move on to a team that you could argue is also struggling in Real Madrid. So,
Mhm.
Real Madrid, they're playing Villarreal this weekend. Villarreal won the previous game 3-1 versus Getafe, who for the past few years have been a very, very strong team. Like
Yeah,
last
yeah.
year in the Europa League, they beat Ajax,
They did beat Ajax.
which is
Bordalas has been one of the best managers in Spain recently, copying a little bit of Cholo Simeone's defensive defensive tactics, defensive structure to cope against big teams.
Villarreal are currently second in La Liga behind Real Sociedad. And under Unai Emery, they have looked rejuvenated, frankly. They, they have had some solid results, but they've also had some good games. Like in the Europa League against Sivasspor, they won 5-3. And so Unai Emery is is seeming to wipe away his past with Arsenal, making people forget how bad he was. And
Initially, to be honest, I did doubt Emery because his first match of the season, he lost it 4-0 in a terrible loss to Barcelona. But he has certainly recovered from it. As you said, his team has been in a good run of form, and and everybody looks rejuvenated. The team is playing better.
and Villarreal do have some good players, notably Spanish players as well. Not that they really need them after the performance of the weekend or during the week. One being Gerard Moreno, who was the top scoring Spanish player in La Liga last season,
Hmm.
and another in Pau Torres, who is being touted for moves everywhere and is being seen as the Sergio Ramos replacement at Real Madrid. And Luis Enrique has described Torres as tall, which is crucial, handsome, and a good kid. Which
He,
apart from the good kid part, are all qualities of Sergio Ramos.
I mean, indeed, he knows quite a lot about the game, and he's quite impressive for a young defender. I believe he may be 23 years old, and he is promising a lot. He could certainly be a good replacement for Ramos on the national team for sure. About Real Madrid, we would have to see how how everything progresses and all. But for me, the most standout players in Villarreal, so some other standout players you didn't mention in Villarreal are Paco Alcácer in the striker position, who is the joint second top scorer in the league, I believe, with 5 goals. I think he might be averaging a goal every 90 minutes or something like that. So it's something very nice, and he's really like. I remember when he first joined Dortmund, and he was scoring all the time. He is recovering that form and that good quality, and as well as him, um, another key part to Villarreal's success has been Dani Parejo, who Villarreal snatched up from Valencia on a free due to Valencia's mismanagement, to be honest.
Budgeting.
So yeah, budgeting and bad management. And Parejo has been doing very well at Villarreal, showing he's still a quality player, and he really commands the midfield, organizes everything, keeps a good tempo. He has been crucial to Unai Emery's plans, and is a good reason, is much of a reason to why they're doing well this season.
And so we'll look at Real Madrid now. So in their previous game before the international break, they lost 4-1 to to Valencia,
Yeah,
which Valencia currently this that's not a good result.
Valencia have been quite poor, and it did surprise me, to be honest. But
They
at
they
the
gave they gave away three penalties, Ramos conceding one of them, as well as Marcelo and Vasquez.
Yeah, at the
Vasquez.
end of the day, I do believe that actually just lost because of bad luck, because of individual mistakes, as you can see from the from the Varane own goal. It
Yeah,
was.
where he flicks it over Courtois in an attempt to clear it. And we
If
do
any of
have
you,
to
if any of you listeners haven't watched it and you want some fun, so search up the Varane own goal. It was quite amusing.
but we do have to give Carlos Soler some appreciation
Three
for his hat
penalties
trick
taken, three
of free
penalties
kicks.
scored.
Yeah.
Not bad. Very clean, very efficient.
But crucially for Real Madrid is that Eden Hazard and Casemiro both return after
Hmm.
previously testing positive for COVID-19. But with that, they do lose Sergio Ramos, who is one of their best players.
Every time Real Madrid plays without Sergio Ramos, they look like a completely different side. Defensively unorganized. Their center backs look like they lose a lot of confidence. They really need Ramos and his leadership and his knowledge of defensive organization to be coherent in the back and to win games. So this this injury is a pretty large blow to Real Madrid, and it really puts the game against Villarreal in danger because they're against a good side in good form, and without this defensive cohesion that Ramos brings, mm, the match looks a lot more uncertain than it would.
That brings me on to my next question. Do you think Real Madrid are entering a crisis or are in a crisis right now?
I don't think they are yet because personally, I have noticed that under Zinedine Zidane, small stretches of bad form like this are almost like the norm. He always has like little like mini crises where the team doesn't play very well, has some bad results for a few weeks, maybe 5 6 games, and then a few games later they seem unstoppable and they recover their form, their place in the league, they climb back up, and it usually happens near the beginning of the season as well. Zidane just has these lapses in game in form, and everyone just plays a little bit worse, and everyone begins to doubt him, doubt the team, and then they just come back stronger than ever, unstoppable, winning all their matches, scoring all the time. So I mean, it is possible that that this stretch of bad form will continue, and this is a genuine crisis they're entering. But I believe it's most likely just a common little dip in Zidane's management style, and they should be back to their usual selves in no time.
And so now we'll move on to the league leaders in Real Sociedad, who are playing newly promoted and sixth placed Cadiz. So I know you have a list on
I,
the
I, I
Sociedad
do.
team,
I genuinely really love this Real Sociedad team.
but I would like to say, I would like to point out how well Oyarzabal has been playing. He's been by far their standout player. He scored 6 goals and got 2 assists so far this season, and recently won the La Liga Player of the Month. But you have plenty more players to talk about.
Oh yeah, yes, of course. I mean, Wolf. First of all, a young left winger playing for Real Sociedad. Oyarzabal has begun to draw comparisons to Griezmann at his time there, and whether he'll be able to live up to that, of course, is only time can tell. But 6 goals so far, top scorer in the league, extremely impressive. But of course, that would be nothing without his midfield, who's constantly giving him balls, giving him good passes, composed of new signing David Silva from Manchester City and Mikel Merino, more experienced Real Sociedad player who has been at the club for a little bit longer. Both of them have been absolutely at their best this season, giving balls to the attackers. Porto on the right wing has also been very important for Real Sociedad. I believe he may have 4 goals in the league and one more in the Europa. And then among the rest of the team, the fullbacks have also been extremely crucial. Gorosaver in the right back last season was really not very good. He was a bit of a joke player. People would make fun of him quite a lot. And then this season he has greatly improved. Fairly young, 23 or 24 years old. He he's showing he has a little bit more experience now. He's defensively solid, contributing a lot to the attacks. And then on the left, ex-Arsenal, Nacho Monreal, quite experienced, a veteran. Not always that useful in attack, but his defensive expertise really helps the two centre backs, who between the two of them, Aritz Elustondo and Lenormand, have kept the second most clean sheets in the league, which is fairly impressive. And then, of course, speaking of clean sheets, the goalie always matters. Alex Remiro, quite good, quite young, but most importantly, more important than his shot stopping has been his passing with his feet, his play. Well, when it comes to Real Sociedad playing out, Alex Remiro is the first person to start the attacks, to really bring cohesion, and he has been absolutely crucial to these league leaders. So props to him, props to this team. I really enjoy watching them. They're very exciting. Oh, and I have to say, the manager himself, Imanol Alwisil, he has done wonders for this team. Absolutely, they deserve to be top of the league, even though they do have played less matches than Real Madrid and Atletico.
Do you think they could continue this run of form and possibly mount a title challenge with the decline in Barcelona and mini decline of Real Madrid?
I don't think they can realistically win the league, but they can certainly create pressure for it. In La Liga, there are always teams who pressure the top two, top three, whether that be Sevilla, whether that be Getafe and Valencia. This year, it will most likely be Real Sociedad, who are they're fighting in Champions League spots and looking for that top spot, second spot. That they will be very difficult to play against, and they will most likely it appears that they will most likely be able to continue their good form and almost certainly secure a spot in the Champions League. However, I do not think they have the experience and consistency to go all out and win the league.
And talking of overachievers, Cadiz, who, as I said before, are newly promoted.
Yeah, Cadiz until they lost against Atletico Madrid last game week, they had
They,
won every single one of their games away from home without conceding a single goal.
and they did beat Real Madrid 1-0 as well.
They did, yeah. They have been quite interesting. Newly promoted sides aren't always serious, aren't always taken very seriously, and Cadiz has ensured that people really look to them with a lot more apprehension and such.
You would never think the top six of La Liga was made up of or had Sevilla, Real Sociedad, Cadiz, and Granada in it.
Yeah, well, where's Barcelona?
And one of the key players at Cadiz is Alvaro Negredo, the former Manchester City, Middlesbrough, Valencia man, who is by far having an Indian summer at Cadiz and thoroughly enjoying himself in these plucky high flyers. So now,
Pretty good for a 35-year-old player, I must say.
so now we're going to have a tiny break, and we'll come back with Serie A. Welcome back. Now, from that ad break where
Thank
we
you, Jack.
don't have any ads, but want ads, we'll now cover Serie A. So the big game this weekend in Serie A is between Napoli and table toppers AC Milan. AC Milan are currently top of Serie A with coach Stefan Pioli considerably changing the team, even though he's touted to be sacked and replaced by Ralf Rangnick over the summer. And the man leading the team is the one and only Zlatan Ibrahimovic.
What a man, what a guy. 37
He's
years old and still scoring.
he's top goal scorer in Serie A with 8 goals, and he leads this young team. He provides them with wisdom and confidence,
And goals.
and has helped them mount this title challenge and taking Milan back to where they belong. So around him, he's got players such as Ante Rebic, formerly of Eintracht Frankfurt, and who has been playing well. And you've got a young player in Rafael Leao, who is only 21 and has provided 3 assists so far this season, while also having Raheem Diaz on loan from Real Madrid. And the strongest point of this Milan team, I believe, is the midfield. You've got Ismail Benacer, who was best player at the Africa Cup of Nations, at the previous Cup of Nations, and is very good at distributing the ball and is just a fun player to watch. You've got Sandro Tonali, who you can argue is probably one of the best players or young players around in Serie A, and Frank Kessié, who basically will do the dirty work, but is able to get up and down very well and has added goals to his repertoire as well. And
How about Hakan Çalhanoğlu? Always a good midfield presence, always giving good passes, good set piece taker. Surely he's been important as well.
he has also been important, and it is great just to watch
That is good
Çalhanoğlu
to hear.
take a free kick. Every time he's on one, he's probably going to score.
I think it's also important to mention the improvement in Milan's defense, particularly from Simon Kjaer, who came from Sevilla recently. Before before AC Milan used to be a leaky side or conceding quite a few goals. Poor Donnarumma didn't have a lot of help, but now Simon Kjaer has really helped solidify this defense and really help the team improve from the back, which I believe any title contending team will needs a solid defense.
And that benefited Teo Hernandez as well. It
Yes, of
was a
course.
bit of an issue last year when your left back is one of your top goal scorers. But now that's not the case, as they have the firepower up front, and I think that due to the fact they're a young team, this is it's going to be something to watch because as they're AC Milan, they they can keep the players because they have the draw of the club. But one issue for Milan going into this game is the fact Stefan Pioli has tested positive for coronavirus, so
What does that mean for the team?
he won't be on the touchline. But the assistant managers will still be on the sidelines in touch with Pioli and contacting the team of what needs to be done. And so Napoli, they're third, and Napoli are also just a fun team to watch. So in Lozano, he is improved considerably since last year, when frankly he was not the best, and he would lose his place to an aging Jose Callahan, which I think says something. And he's started to score more, and he's becoming a stalwart of the first team. One player who was a stalwart but is slowly who's got injured now is Victor Osimhen, signed from Lille for £72 million. He was slowly managing to finding his feet, managing to score goals and link up the play well in the team. But on international duty with Nigeria, he dislocated his shoulder, which is a bit of a shame because Victor, he's just a good player and fun to watch.
Do you
And
know how long it will be until he comes back?
well, it's a dislocated shoulder, so it's going to be a good few months out.
That's really unfortunate. He was in good form, and I did like seeing him.
And then you go on to Dries Mertens, who is obviously the top goal scorer in Napoli's history, overtaking the likes of Marek Hamšík and Diego Maradona. And the man adopted by Napoli has just continued this run of form.
Who's
And
Maradona?
and the fact that Osimhen's injured as well, it just probably means that the more chances for Mertens to score over these next few months. So his goal scoring is probably going to increase even more. And then you've got Bakayoko. So the Chelsea reject, it's safe to say that is starting for Napoli and is slowly rejuvenating his career under Gattuso. And frankly, Gattuso is probably the best manager for Bakayoko to learn from, because you've got a terrier of a player and a man that didn't take anyone's shit to teach Bakayoko. I know he was a good central defensive midfielder before he moved to Chelsea and Monaco, but Gattuso will help him regain his form and even possibly make him a better player.
And a more
And
aggressive player too, I hope.
yeah, And the fact that this Napoli side are improving can be seen by the fact they beat Atalanta and they blew them away. Frankly, they beat them 4-1, which was quite a shock to Atalanta. And yeah, so keep an eye out for Milan Napoli. That's probably my game to watch, to be honest, this weekend. And so we move on to Atalanta, who are playing newly promoted Spezia. Atalanta are currently sixth, which is a way off the third place they finished last season, and they have been struggling defensively, but that has always been a case for Atalanta. It's
What
just become more prominent since they lost 5-0 to Liverpool.
what would you say has been the difference between this season's Atalanta and last season's? Why are they doing so much worse now?
I don't think there's no difference. It's just going to take a while because they brought in new players, new defenders, and fullbacks, and it takes a while to learn the system that Gasperini plays. And
Right, that makes sense.
and in the 5-0 to Liverpool, they were missing players like Martin de Roon, who is key.
I guess it also makes sense that teams learn to play against Atalanta's very offensive style, learn how to counter it, so they become less effective.
Exactly. They're a team that brings something new. They'll slowly that and wins a lot of games because of it. They will slowly get found out, and they will slowly fall away as a team. But I don't expect Atalanta to fall away. I imagine Gasperini will easily adapt his tactics to carry on because I do believe if Atalanta get it right, they could seriously challenge for the Serie A. They came close last year because it was tight, but a few poor results meant they slipped away. And obviously, I still stand to this day and believe that Atalanta, if they had Galini in goal and Josip Ilicic up front against PSG, they would have won and they would have been in the Champions League semi-final.
But bold claims, bold claims.
And now we move on to Juventus. So Juventus are not playing as well as they should be. They've drawn 4 games this season, and albeit they won one game because Napoli had to forfeit it because the fact they weren't allowed to travel to Turin, and without Ronaldo, when he was out with COVID, they struggled to score, and this is something that needs to be addressed. But the fact that Andre Pirlo has been thrown in at the deep end with very little managerial, not very little, none managerial experience before this, it is going to take some time before Juventus can even push again to the top. So Kulusevski, the Swedish winger who they signed from Atalanta last year and who won Serie A Young Player of the Year, has begun to look very good in the games he has played in Serie A, albeit him being thrown either on the wing or as a wing back. But I do believe that this Serie A season is probably one of the most open in a while, and it's going to be interesting with Napoli and Milan fighting it out this weekend. You've got two very good teams who could challenge for the title. And if we look at the other best of the rest, we've got the most important thing is Kolarov has tested positive for COVID, so it does mean he won't be playing for Inter Milan against Torino. But that is a game that Milan should be winning easily, especially with Lukaku coming back from injury and playing and scoring twice against Denmark for Belgium. And one thing where there's been some development is Lazio, who have had some issues with their testing and for coronavirus, where the UEFA labs that would conduct the tests meant some players such as Ciro Immobile would test positive, but the testing that Lazio would use meant players were testing negative, so they were allowed to play in Serie A. And so that meant some players were playing against Torino, obviously meaning the spread could have been greater. And so now an inquiry has been launched by the Italian Football Federation looking into this issue of the testing, and this will bring up the idea of whether standardized testing should be used in Serie A like it is in the Premier League, as well as the Champions League and Europa League. So we're going to have another break again for our non-existing ads, but we will be back again with the Bundesliga and Liga. After that ad break, which with no ads again, we're back with the Bundesliga, and which is by far my favourite league. Just to point that out, so there is no bias going into this, especially when we get to the latter part of it. We'll start with Hertha Berlin versus Borussia Dortmund. So Borussia Dortmund are looking to bounce back after their actually, even though they lost, impressive performance in the Klassiker, which shows that they are able to now compete with a Bayern Munich side who, frankly, last year looked unstoppable. They look like no one could beat them or even come close to them after that 8-2 drubbing of Barcelona. But this season, Bayern have shown cracks with their loss of 4-1 to Hoffenheim, as well as kind of being shaky defensively against Hertha Berlin themselves. And so Erling Braut Haaland, after the COVID issues with Norway, he has been cleared to play and won't have to isolate, which is a big plus for Dortmund. You have Jadon Sancho, who's played well for England over the international break, having a goal and assist, and Giovanni Reina, who made his USA debut during the international break and played very well, scoring a goal. He's set to sign a new contract, meant to last into 2024, which is very big for Dortmund because normally they have players that would leave very early, like Sancho was last year. But he's now tied down to then, which does also mean they will be able to make a lot of money on him because I imagine he'll cost a lot to be able to prize him away from Dortmund.
And what about Jude Bellingham? He will be playing against Hertha Berlin, I imagine. Maybe not as a starter, but I am aware that he often comes on as a sub, and he's developing quite well in this Dortmund side.
I don't see him starting, but I can I imagine he will come off the bench
It'll be
because
interesting to see what he can do in the match.
but I understand this because he's a midfielder and that to play there requires a lot more experience
Yeah, yeah, yes, of course. He's only 17 years old.
and physicality. I, I, I do think he should. I know he started the first game of the season against Mönchengladbach, but I do think he should be given more starts like Gio Reyna, even though Gio Reyna is an attacker.
Yeah, yeah, of course. I guess at the end of
So
the day,
so Hertha Berlin are 12th, and Hertha Berlin are a bit of a circus. I'm going to be honest. They're a team that a lot goes wrong, especially last year, but they were saved by the COVID break. Uh, Mateus Cunha has been by far the best player and was nominated for Player of the Month this past month. The results are yet to be announced. So I don't know the winner. But I don't really see Hertha Berlin causing Dortmund any issues, even though they managed to kind of cause Bayern some issues, and Dortmund are relatively more shaky than Bayern defensively. I do see Dortmund going on to win this easily. So Bayern are against Werder Bremen this weekend. Bremen are such a bad team to play. They have declined massively since winning the Bundesliga.
honestly, I can't believe they're still in the Bundesliga. I swear, every single year they fight a relegation battle.
Last year they should have been relegated, but the only team worse than Werder Bremen are Mainz, and Mainz are terrible as well and should be playing so much better. But away from the Bundesliga, the Club World Cup was
Mm,
announced to take place in February, and this would affect Bayern's matches against Hoffenheim, Hertha Berlin, and Arminia Bielefeld in game weeks 19 to 21. But the most important news to come out of the international break is Boateng's contract situation. So Bayern Munich, they've not offered Boateng a new contract. So
that, that's quite yeah.
that means he's set to leave on a free next summer.
That's quite
So
interesting because him and Alaba are in the same situation now. Two of their starting centre backs.
exactly, even though they have Lucas Hernandez
Hmm?
on the bench and Nicolas Sule, they they're not as they're not as good.
Yeah,
They
yeah. They do lack some experience.
they tend to be a bit more shaky.
Right.
So what I want to know is where can you see Jerome Boateng moving to at the end of the summer or the season? I mean,
Personally, for me, the team that would make the most sense would be PSG. He would still be playing at a fairly high level, a lot of Champions League. So a lot of Champions League. Ligue 1 is pretty good. However, I think it would be a little bit less strenuous for him than the Bundesliga, and of course the paycheck would be quite nice for him. And he's still a good defender, so he does deserve to be at a top team. If he doesn't go to PSG, I believe he should go to the Serie A, possibly as a backup for Inter in the same way Godin did a few seasons back. Somewhere there could be a good fit for him, but he still is good enough to play for a top team.
I could see him go to like Inter Milan because Antonio Conte seems to have
Yeah, yeah.
a weird preference for signing elderly players.
Veteran defenders.
Yeah, but I can see him staying in the Bundesliga. I I don't think he'll go to the Premier League, even though I think he'll be able to handle it. I just don't think he wants to
Yeah,
because
I don't really see it at his style either.
he's been there and done that. He's played for Manchester City, and I don't think he'll want to do it again. But I don't know which Bundesliga team could afford to take him.
Could
The
we
only team I
potentially
could think of is probably Hertha Berlin. They're the only team stupid enough to pay his wages, frankly.
could we potentially see another one of the classic Bayern Munich and Dortmund player switches?
I don't think so because Boateng has no links to Dortmund, unlike
Yeah, heard that. Definitely heard
Hummels
that.
when he went back.
Yeah, yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
And I don't think like morally Boateng would want to move
Yeah, of course not.
to Bayern Munich's closest rival after he spent so many years in the team.
Yeah, of course not. Of course not.
And now we'll touch on Leipzig, who are playing Eintracht Frankfurt. Frankfurt aren't as strong as they were when they reached the Europa League semi-finals under with Jovic, Haller, and Rebic up front. But Leipzig have slowly been able to transition away from being so reliant on Timo Werner. They've looked good this year as they are second. And Julian Nagelsmann is showing why he's such a good coach. But the one issue is Leipzig top goal scorer is Angelino, the Manchester City reject. Although Angelino is playing very, very well, and I don't understand why Manchester City let him go. It's just the fact that left back is the top goal scorer. I know Milan did it last year, but this is
But then,
Leipzig. They've got Alexander Soroth, the man that lit it up in the Turkish Superliga,
and
as
then
well
they've
as
got Paulson. Yeah,
Yusuf Poulsen,
he's pretty
Marcel
decent as
Sabitzer,
well.
Danny Olmo. They've got plenty of attacking players able to score, but the left back is. And then another one of my controversial statements: if Timo Werner was playing for Leipzig and decided to not not play for Leipzig in the Champions League and decide to be ready for Chelsea, Leipzig would have been in the Champions League final. With Werner's pace,
Ooh.
they would just stick him on Thiago Silva at PSG, and he could just, of course, so many issues for PSG.
I
It,
actually disagree because I think a lot of the reason why Leipzig knocked out Atletico was because they were missing Timo Werner. Atletico didn't know who to mark, they didn't know who their reference point was, and the team really changed and adapted a lot. So I actually believe that with Timo Werner, even though he is a really good player and very capable of putting the team on his back, Atletico would have made plans to counter him and made plans to stop him because they are good like that defensively. But without him, they seemed lost. So that is a controversial opinion. I agree with you on that part.
but the one issue with Leipzig in that semi final was all the goals were their mistake.
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
And now we move on to a team that I have very close to my heart, Borussia Mönchengladbach. So they are coming off one of the best games in the Bundesliga so far, beating it was back and forth all the time against Bayer Leverkusen, where they lost 4-3. But the highlight of that game, even though it was a consolation goal, was Valentino Lazzaro's scorpion kick. It was his first goal for Borussia Mönchengladbach, but he just stole the show. It doesn't matter that Leverkusen came from behind to win and were playing amazingly. I can't describe that goal.
It was really beautiful. I do agree. If anyone hasn't seen it, please search it up. It is 100% worth watching.
Gladbach are playing Augsburg. I expect them to win. But one issue is Alisson Player, the focal point of their attack, has tested positive for coronavirus. So it does mean he won't be playing, which is a shame. Jonas Hoffman has also got injured
Guess
for
it's time for Marcus Thuram to step up.
on international duty with Germany. And so that means the show is on Marcus Thuram, the man that is arguably I can see being better than his dad, Lilian Thuram. And that's saying something when he was a World Cup and European Championship winner. Marcus Thuram he's strong, he's quick, he's very skillful as well, causing so many issues for fullbacks. And another man that I sadly don't expect to see at Mönchengladbach for long when he gets back playing is Dennis Zakaria. After a long layoff with injury, he's finally back, and at the weekend he will be on the bench. So I hope to see him make some sort of a return because he is a player. He's a central defensive midfielder that any team, any top team, in fact, in Europe would benefit from having. He does all the things a good central defensive midfielder does, while also being quick as well for his height. So I'm saying it now, and I tweet this out every month, and I'll say it on here as well. Liverpool, please sign Marcus Thuram and Dennis Zakaria. I will literally cry if they don't go anywhere else. So please. But talking of young players, we'll go back to Dortmund briefly. Yusuf Makoko, who I know I've butchered that, who's 15. Everyone has heard of him. Tomorrow or today, if you listen to this on the day it goes out, which I expect you to, will be able to be registered by Dortmund, which does mean he will be able to play in the Bundesliga as well as Champions League, which will be very, very, very interesting
He was
because
complimenting Haaland, wasn't he?
this man scores so many goals for Dortmund's youth teams, and Erling Haaland himself has said he is better than he was at 15, which is something to say, to be honest. And so look out for him on the bench. I imagine he could be put on the bench this weekend for Hertha Dortmund. So look out for that. And now we move on to Liga. So we'll first start with, even though it's not the biggest game this weekend, we'll start with Marseille versus Nice. So it's been called off basically, and that's because the large number of COVID cases for Nice. It's probably going to be rescheduled. Most likely, it's not going to be like in Italy where the game was abandoned and the win given to Juventus. So I imagine the game to be played another time. Now, the biggest game this weekend, and the reason that I hope this podcast is out before so you can listen to it and listen to what we have to say, is Monaco versus PSG, which kicks off at 8 o'clock on Friday. So PSG are top of Liga. They've come off a convincing 3-0 win versus Rennes, which is surprising considering Rennes are third and have been playing well, but they have struggled recently with Camavinga being injured, and he doesn't offer the attacking drive that he possesses. And if you want to read more about Rennes, click on the link to my blog, where I have wrote an article about Rennes, and there are plenty more by me and Nick on there as well.
And me as well, yes. You're a Liga specialist.
But back to PSG, Moise Kean, on loan from Everton, has proved to be playing very well with PSG. You could argue, yes, it's because the quality in Liga is a lot worse than the Premier League, but it's the type of move that can give King confidence to begin to perform in the Premier League. Although I may hate to say this for Everton, but if he does play, he will be a good signing.
Is he
Uh,
on loan? It
he's
sure
on
it's not a
loan.
permanent deal, is it?
He's on loan. He's on loan. He'll be a good signing for Everton. That's what I meant. If he comes back from his year in France and just performs well, he'll be a good signing. But the difference between this and every other season for PSG is that normally they would struggle against smaller teams without Mbappe and Neymar, who have both been injured. But they've managed to continue and push along with Keane and Di Maria and Pablo Sarabia, all all performing well. But sometimes when they do play these smaller teams with Mbappe or Neymar in the team, it always seems to be we'll pass it to them and that's it. They'll just let them control the or dictate what's going to happen. And so Monaco are sixth, and although they're not reaching the heights that they did a few years ago, they finally managed to keep pushing. And
Recovering from the Thierry Henry era.
I was looking more at the Mbappe era, so where they won the Liga a few years ago. So that
I meant Thierry Henry as a manager who almost got them relegated.
okay, fair enough. Yeah, they've finally managed to recover from that. Although they're not the same team that they were a few years ago with the signing of young players and then developing them and then selling them on like Fabinho, Mbappe, Bernardo Silva, Thomas Lemar, Benjamin Mendy. They are just moving along. Their form though has been a bit streaky. They do seem to lose against smaller teams or bigger teams. They lost to Leon a few weeks ago, but they can't seem to string a good run of results together. And for all you FIFA fans out there, I hate to tell you that Ben Yedder has continued his strong goal scoring form,
That is quite scary.
and so keep keep an eye out for the continued informs that he will receive. So much so that he was actually nominated for Player of the Month. And so now we'll move on to my favorite part of what will be this brand new podcast. We focus on Leo here, but we're gonna call it Jonathan David's watch.
It's the Jonathan David watch time.
So, yeah, I would like someone to make a jingle out of that, but it probably won't happen. Before we talk about Jonathan David, we'll just look at the rest of Leo first. So under Christophe Gautier, they have improved massively, and I'm not saying they'll push for the title because they don't have the money. But if PSG didn't have the money, I'm pretty sure Leo could win the league. In Burak Yilmaz, they have a 35-year-old who's third in the goal scoring ranks in Liga with 6 goals, and has outplayed and has pushed Jonathan David out of his starting place. You've got Renato Sanchez, who's becoming by far one of the best box to box midfielders in Liga, and it seems to be reigniting his career and showing the promise that he did when he was at Benfica and playing in the Euros 2016. Yazidzi, who's been playing well in Liga, but more specifically, he's been on fire basically in the Europa League. Against AC Milan, he managed to score a hat trick, and then the game before that, he also scored a hat trick. And in a group that contains Celtic, Sparta Prague, and AC Milan, Leo are top, which previously you wouldn't think, but they are just such a fun team to watch. And then you've got the two Jonathans, not Jonathan David, Jonathan Bamba and Jonathan Ikone, who are both causing havoc on the wings for Lille, with Jonathan Bamba recently winning the Player of the Month for Liga. And so now we move on to Jonathan David.
First of all, we should start with who is Jonathan David for a little bit of context. Would you like to start us off?
So with the sale of Victor Osimhen to Napoli last summer, Lille looked north of the border to Ghent, where they signed Jonathan David, who was 20 and who had just come off a very, very good season with Ghent, where he finished one of the top goal scorers in the Belgian Pro League. he moved for 30 million. And at the beginning of the season, he was trusted with the starting spot instead in front of Burak Yilmaz at Lille. And it's safe to say he has struggled big time.
So here at the European show, we are starting the Jonathan David watch in order to keep track of this young promise, of this young talent, who isn't quite living up to his price tag yet, but it will hopefully live up to the expectations at some point. So far, we are actually keeping a record. Days since Jonathan Davis scored 267. It's been since a game in the Europa League against Roma that he last scored with Ghent. So by the end of the season, we hope that our days since Jonathan Davis scored counter will not go above 7.
Albeit that, yes, the Belgian Pro League did finish abruptly, so we didn't have a chance to add to that tally or reduce the amount of days. And the reason we're keeping this is more sympathy.
Yeah, exactly.
I
I do hope he will score this weekend, and by the next time we record this podcast, days since Jonathan David scored, it will be 1 or 2.
I feel sorry for him. I really want him to score. I don't know whether he hasn't adapted to the system yet. But the fact that he's letting a 35-year-old, a man that has not really succeeded outside of Turkey until now, play better than him, and he's only got one assist in the Europa League. It's an issue, and I hope he addresses this issue. So we're gonna have a break now, where I can vent off my anger from Jonathan David, and for the last part, we'll focus on the Belgian Pro League, what's happening in Portugal, and wrap up everything else. So we're back now for the final part. You're probably all so happy about that as well. We'll move on to what arguably some people say is an irrelevant league, but it doesn't seem to be irrelevant at the moment. So the Belgian Pro League. Normally you would think, it's Anderlecht, Club Brugge, they're all running away with the title. Not this year. So the top 7 in the Belgian Pro League are separated by only 2 points. Club Brugge are top, yes, I know, with 23 points, and Anderlecht are 7th with 21. Both promoted teams, Beerschot and Leuven, are very impressive this season, with Beerschot being 4th and Leuven being 8th. And so the game we're going to focus on is 4th v 7th, so Beerschot versus Anderlecht. The reason we chose Anderlecht is, for the English audience, is Vincent Kompany, because frankly, he's the only reason
He's
people
pretty
care.
shit. Yeah.
And unless you want to know about how John Flanagan is doing at Charleroi, who are second, by the way. So at Anderlecht, after he's finally taken over as coach, after a very shaky and weird start to the year last year, it's taking a while for Anderlecht to become Manchester City, basically, as the ideas that company want to implement are taking a while for the team to figure out. But at Anderlecht, he has a young team who will take to this and will learn from it. And Yari Vasharen is by far probably the best young player in that Anderlecht team. And learning from Vince, albeit Vince Kompany being a defender, but learning from his knowledge and experience will benefit Vasharen so much, who has already made several appearances for Belgium. And I don't think it'd be long before he moves away from Belgium. And then we've got Beerschot, who are promoted, as I said before, but recently have been a bit streaky with losing a few games and drawing. But this season they have taken some scalps, shall I say. They've beaten Genk, winners 2 years ago, and Club Brugge, winners last year, obviously, and outright favourites to win it this year, which is, considering normally promoted teams in Belgium seem to be don't do as well this is very impressive. Same with Leuven, who are managing to stay eighth as well and are looking impressive. But then if we look, so against Anderlecht, there's a possibility of a scalp on the way, and I could genuinely see Beerschot beating Anderlecht. And so we'll go on to Ghent, who are safe to say are missing Jonathan David, and it's also safe to say Jonathan David's probably missing them as well. So they've lost the firepower of David, but they have managed to find a replacement in Roman Yaramchuk, and the Ukrainian is kind of filling in well with
Well,
7 goals.
if they've lost the firepower, but they've replaced him, then what is the problem? Why are they not doing as well?
Well, I think they've tried to re-sign players that they won the league with a few years ago, but it's
Yeah.
it's not helped.
I guess they're all too old. None of them are up to it
Yeah,
anymore.
they've re-signed Sven Combs and Laurent de Poitiers, who are not as good as they were a few years ago. So Ghent, and that can be seen in the Europa League as well, where normally you would see them finishing second behind Hoffenheim. They're bottom of their group. It's something that needs to be. There is a serious issue happening at Ghent that needs to be addressed. And we'll look at Portugal, and then we'll wrap this up. So in Portugal, there's not really any big games, but Benfica, Sporting, and Santa Clara have all been raided by the police due to corruption or money laundering. So the investigation is ongoing. So obviously, when there is an update, and in the next podcast, we will update you. For Santa Clara, it was in the involvement of the transferring of 3 Libyan players, and the investigation on Benfica is focused on their president. While this for Sporting is not, it's not the best. This is another page in the book of declining, with following on from the big exodus of all the players a few years ago and the assault on the training ground. And so now, I just want to talk about one man, a man that has somehow carried his team to the Euros, and a man that does not score an easy goal.
Underrated.
Every goal he scores is just a good goal. That man is Dominic Szoboszlai. Nick can tell you his thoughts of when he played Atletico Madrid, but in the final to get his team into the Euros, this man in the 90th minute goes on a run of the whole pitch and then has the balls to shoot from outside of the box and still score to send his team to the Euros, albeit they're in a group of Germany, Portugal, and France. But Szoboszlai, he will leave Salzburg at the end of the year, probably for Leipzig, which is probably best for his development. But he is a man that you should watch out for.
Yeah, I know. My impressions of him, from what I have seen from him, he's extremely good. He's quick, he's smart, and he's quite explosive. When he's on the ball, he always like unbalances the opposition team. He runs quite well. He's very dangerous, and of course, I do look forward to seeing him in a larger team.
This has been filled with controversial statements. This will be my next and probably biggest one.
Go on.
Szoboszlai will be the second best Hungary player ever after Puskas.
And who's the current second best Hungary player?
Probably Kozics. He also played in the same team as Puskas.
Well, I do see that it's possible because Szoboszlai is already making waves, and he obviously can't be better than Puskas. But I think that's realistic.
Well, we'll just have to wait and see.
We will just have to wait and see. Just like you're going to have to wait and see for the next episode of our podcast.
Yeah,
Coming on
so
Monday.
I think that's it for today. You're probably all very happy about that. We'll be back on Monday to look back at probably all the games we've just talked about and look ahead to the Champions League, where I will get to talk about Dominic Szoboszlai or Marcus Thuram. So if you're on Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast, follow us, subscribe. If you're on YouTube, subscribe, because we need the subscribers so that we can make money. And if there's anyone that wants to sponsor us, we're open to anything. and I mean anything. I don't care what it is. Just something, please. Or you can. We'll do the ads ourselves. We don't care. We just need the money. Thank you for listening, and we will see you on Monday.